Good morning. Good morning, friends, family, TLC. Come on into the space. Listen, it's good to be together this morning, isn't it? Come on into the space. Get comfortable, relax wherever you are. I'm affirming that wherever you are, God is present. Ground that you're standing on, holy ground. God is still on the throne. God is still controlling, in control. Come on in. Let's affirm that as we come into the room this morning. Wherever you're coming from around the country, whether you're coming in Atlanta, from Detroit, whether you're coming in through YouTube, Facebook, welcome. This is Transforming Love Community, where we transform lives through healing, through truth principles, through community, through love, all of those things, man. We continue to transform lives, and we will continue to do that. We're doing it for 27 years. And we ain't gonna stop now. It ain't no stopping us now, like the song says. So come on into the space, get your coffee, get your tea, get your water, whatever. And let's communicate together a little bit, right? Let's have some. I was gonna say dialogue, but you won't be saying nothing. I'll just be talking. So to just be me, it'll be a monologue. But come on in. Oh, thank you. Look at that. Happy birthday message. Happy birthday to me. Thank you, Rev. Thank you, Rev. Thank you. And thank you for all the people I know. You'll chime in with some birthday messages, man. I'm feeling really grateful today. Um, really grateful for 60 years. 60 years. When you get to a certain age, say that every age is a milestone, right? But this is certainly a milestone for me. It's a little different than 50. 50 was cool, but 60, man, you just some gratitude and grateful. So um, I am even more on fire about my purpose and why I'm here and sharing those gifts with you. So just good to be a part of TLC. Come on into the space. Much love and gratitude to Rev. Thank you for being here. I know you were out of town, not just out of town, probably out of the country. Oh, he's somewhere else. He's up somewhere on the island, on the beach. Rev knows how to do it and knows how to stay in peace, and that's what we teach about, right? You got to do the work for that. Everybody, you got to do the work to stay in peace. So, a transforming love community, we actually do the work, and the work ain't always pretty. It doesn't always feel good, but if you want peace, if you want love, if you want serenity, if you want contentment, you have to do the work. So I'm thankful for transforming love community. I'm thankful for you coming in today. You could be anywhere right now and you are tuning in. It doesn't matter. You can be sitting at another church and tuning in. I'm grateful. We're grateful for your presence this morning. So thank you for being here. Let's as we think about um, this gratitude. I think we would be tone deaf. Certainly, I would be tone deaf if we don't stop and think about what's going on in the world, particularly. And I'm not just talking about issues in administration and the government and all that. I'm talking about some of the tragedies that have happened recently. We want to hold space and pray for um, the victims of the recent plane crash in Philadelphia. Just a tragedy, right? Just a tragedy. We want to hold them and hold their families in love and healing and comfort and all that. We have to do that. We are still praying for the people in LA and California. It's glad to hear that the fires are finally contained, but certainly there's a lot of loss. There's a lot of loss. We need to hold a space for that as well, and hold a space for all those families and those people who lost their lives as well. So these tragedies are happening. We have to stop and really hold space as community. Community doesn't just mean where you are locally. It means global community, the community of righteousness, the community of compassion. And so we hold that for them. And if you're so inclined, I'm sure there are plenty of places where you can send money, you can send items, you can do all that. We're looking to do the same thing over this way. And so um, let's hold them in prayer, but let's also take some action if we can help them out in some way. You know, it is uh, difficult for me sometimes, challenging for me to talk about thriving sometimes when all this stuff is going on and all this stuff is around us. But we must continue to talk about it. We must continue to thrive. It is our resistance to those who would try to make us feel hopeless and all that. And so let's do that together today. All right. So we're going to continue to pray for all of them. And we're going to pray for the world. There's a lot going on in the world, right? And we're going to keep praying for the world. We're going to pray for peace, all those things, and continue to work towards it. And here at TLC, we certainly try to do that for the community all the time. We certainly do it for ourselves. And as we tap into the spiritual economy this month, and we continue with that this month, we continue to do things that are going to help us transform. And so I want to make a few announcements, if you will, and then we'll get into the message. Always, tomorrow is Monday. If it's Monday, it's time to soak. It's Monday, and we be soaking on Monday with Reverend Danny Stillwell, man. And it is man, this idea of soaking in the presence is certainly needed right now. So we thank Reverend Danny for her commitment, for her consistency, and we hold a space for her as she needs rest also to do that. But she's there on every Monday doing that for us and holding space. And so join in. You see the information to call in to the prayer line. You see the passcode. Go to the website if you forget this information. If you want to join tomorrow at noon, so we look forward to seeing you. We all need to meet God. We all need to continue to meet God, and we need to do that together. So we do it in music and prose. Thank you. Reverend Nikki, Reverend Nikki, our own Reverend Nikki is doing her thing. We got the First Miracles Club Sip and Study that's going to be happening this Friday, February 7th, 2025. That's February 7th, 2025 at 7 p.m. All right, 7 p.m. And again, you see all the information. This is a Zoom call, so you got the information for Zoom. You see the passcode. Listen, Reverend Nikki is talking about above all else, trust. That certainly is a message for right now. For right now, above all else, trust. And so we look forward to joining Reverend Nicole Miller on Friday for that. Remember, go to the website if you lose this information or if you forget it. February 7th at 7 o'clock. Thank you. Thank you. All right, this month we continue with tapping into the spiritual economy. And this is the first Sunday in February. I'm here today. Then we have Reverend Royce. We have Reverend Nicole Miller once again, and Reverend Tia Littlejohn. That's a lineup, man. We got people who are immersed in this truth coming to us, and so we're so grateful for all of them coming in. They are on fire, and so we thank Reverend Shaheerah for her trust in all of us to come and give a word or give a message and hold the space down in her absence. So that's what we do. We're a community at TLC. We don't rely on just one person to give a message. We have a community of people who can do that. So we're grateful. And next week is going to be Reverend Royce. Reverend Royce, that's on February 9th at 10 a.m. Join us next week. His message is a dream, a drought, and a destiny of prosperity. Wow. And say that again, a dream, a drought, and a destiny of prosperity. Wow, there's a destiny of prosperity no matter what happens, that we have a destiny of prosperity. We're looking forward to Reverend Royce. Man, that's a word. These are all words that we need. So it's really good to be together this month and really do this together, because we cannot do this alone. We cannot grow alone. We cannot evolve alone. And certainly now we need community. So join us next Sunday once again at 10 a.m. for Reverend Royce. So TLC, let's kind of breathe into this message a little bit, breathe into the space, and so and just settle and prepare ourselves. I really believe that no matter where we're located, no matter where you are, that there's no amount of miles, geography, or space that can separate spirit and that could separate us. And though forces will try to separate us, all we need to do is close our eyes and breathe and feel the oneness within ourselves and know that 7 or 8 billion people on the planet, there's only one right now. There's only us. There's only you. And I am you. You are me. right? So let's just breathe into that for a minute as we prepare for this message. Wherever you are, just center yourself, whatever's comfortable for you. Let's take a few moments of silence and as we breathe. Thank you for joining me in that. And as we breathe and I prepare for this, I just declare and I affirm that I am empty. I'm an empty vessel for God to be used. And so my prayer is that anything I say today and anything that comes through me, that God says through me, touches someone. You'll take someone a little further on their journey, open someone's eyes, all those things. And so you leave this place a little higher than you were when you came in. And so I just declare that and know it to be true. And I say, may every word, every thought, and every word that comes out of my mouth may be pleasing to the Spirit of God. Amen.
Amen.
I say, and so it is. Oh, TLC, what's going on? You know, the Erica sent me a message earlier this week and it reminded me of the Marvin Gaye song, What's Going On? What is going on? There's a lot going on. Just a lot going on. As I said earlier, you know, we need to talk about our destiny, as Reverend Royce will talk about next week. We need to talk about thriving. And it's also challenging because we hold multiple spaces at one time. We don't have to just hold one thing. We talk about that, but we also feel for all the pain. We feel for the grief. We feel frustration about where we are as a country, where we are as a world. We are witnessing like daily assaults on humanity. And, it's important that we hold ourselves and hold each other very tightly. It's very important that we do that and remind each other of our inherent worth. We have to remind each other of our inherent worth. We have to do that for each other. We first have to do it for ourselves. And then we have to allow our creativity to act as our refusal to succumb to the forces of unrighteousness. Our creativity acts as our refusal to succumb to the forces of unrighteousness. I refuse, man. I refuse. And so I refuse to be unhappy. I refuse to dwell in anger. I refuse to dwell where those forces want me to dwell. I refuse. And so we have to refuse together, and then we have to build each other up together. Because you know what? Opportunity awaits. Opportunity, opportunity awaits. I want to read real quick, and I hadn't planned this, but I saw this quote this morning, and I wanted to read it to you because I think it speaks to this whole idea that opportunity awaits. And though there's chaos surrounding us and all around us, this quote says, "Not all storms come to disrupt your life, some come to clear your path." I'm going to read that again. Not all storms come to disrupt your life, some come to clear your path. And I'm just going to affirm and declare right now that the path is being cleared. No matter what the appearances are, the path is being cleared. And I know for me personally, I know it to be true because for me personally, my path is being cleared. And so I know what's possible for me is possible for the community because we're one. What's possible for me is possible for the world because we're one and the global community. So our path is being cleared right now. And we must remember, right, when the path is being cleared, no matter what's going on, that God doesn't change because who's in office. Spiritual laws don't change based on who was elected. Spiritual laws don't change because who holds the party seats in the government. Spiritual laws don't change because of who's in the cabinet. It doesn't change. And the way to peace, love, joy doesn't change just because it seems that evil is winning. It doesn't change. We have to remember that the path is being cleared and all will be well. All is well. We have to declare that that's how we will bring it into being. So that doesn't change. God does not change. Spiritual principle does not change. It does not change. But I tell you what, family, here's the work we have to do. Here's the work we have to do. Because if we're going to tap into the spiritual, it means we got to tap out of the worldly. You know about tap out. You can see a wrestling match. You can see it when they hit the play tapping out. Well, we're not giving up. We're tapping out of the worldly. The worldly. We're tapping out of worldly economies. We're tapping out of worldly thinking. It reminds me of Romans 12:2 that comes to mind. And I want to read from the New Living Translation. The New Living Translation says, don't copy the behavior and customs of the world, but let God transform you into a new person by changing the way you think. Then you will learn to know God's will for you, which is good and pleasing and perfect. That we don't copy the behavior and customs of the world. We divest from that. And we're reminded that progress and our hope is not found in doing the same thing better.
Yes, that's insanity.
Our progress and our hope is not found in doing the same thing better. Our hope is not found in trying to make an existing system better, or even being satisfied with symbolic victories that lull us to sleep. Mm-mm, mm-mm. We can't be deceived. See, people who lack justice for so long cannot afford to believe that a semblance of justice is full justice. We can't even hope that somebody will give it to us.
Mm-mm.
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 We have to declare that for ourselves.
Come on.
A semblance of justice is not justice. So as for me, I'm not asking. I'm not asking, fam.
Mm-mm.
And I would suggest you do the same thing. I'm not asking or I'm not expecting that anyone will give me what I need. We're not expecting that anyone will give us what we need other than the spirit of the Most High God. Neither do we need permission. I don't need permission to celebrate Black History Month. I don't need permission to celebrate Pride Month. I don't need permission to celebrate women's empowerment and support it. I don't need permission to celebrate and recognize gender expansiveness. I don't need permission to celebrate and support immigrants' rights. I don't need permission, and neither do you. Neither do you. So we're not asking and we're not expecting. We're tapping into the spiritual where all things are possible. All things are possible with God. All things are possible. So we don't need no middleman for God to get to God, and we don't need nobody to tell us what to do when you had a spirit of God. And so anybody who wants to who wants to send a message to you about what you can now and what you can do and what you can do. Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
Not
Mm-mm.
today.
Mm-mm.
Not tomorrow.
Not today.
Takes every second.
I say GTFOH, and that is translating to get out of here with that. Get out of here.
That ain't
Come
no
on.
rules.
Come on. Come on. Because no weapon formed against the righteous will ever prosper. No weapon. I don't care what the weapon is. I don't care what the office. No weapon will form will ever prosper against the righteous. And there's no threat that can keep you from righteousness. You can threaten. There's no threat.
No.
There's no threat. And let me say this, fam. This is where we're at now. And certainly it's where I'm at. Before I let you kill me, I'm going to die willingly.
Yes, I said the same.
Do you understand what I'm saying, fam? Before I let you kill me, I'm going to die willingly. I'm going to die to the old way of thinking. I'm going to die to my former attachments. I'm going to die to the ways of the world. I'm going to die to it. And when you get to that point, fam, when you get to that point in your life where you're not afraid of death, you're not afraid of being chastised on social media. You're not afraid of being attacked. You're not afraid of being dismissed by the algorithm. You're not afraid of all that. You're not afraid. In fact, you can be surrounded by the flames of chaos and not get burned. Not even a singe. You won't even be singed when you get to that point. Surrounded by flames, chaos, and not be burned. See, that's where we want to be fed. That's where we have to get to. Do you know? Think about a tornado. Do you know the evidence suggests that tornadoes mostly in the center of a tornado is mostly calm. They have clear centers and low pressure in the center of a tornado. So if you could be in the center of the fire, you can be in the center of chaos. You can be in the center, and if you stay centered, you will not get burned. So the storm can be all around you, but just stay in the center.
Just stay in the center.
Stay under God, under the provision of God. Stay under the shelter of the Almighty. You stay there, you will not be burned. But what do we need to do, fam? We need to do something different. We need to do something different too, fam. We need to do something different. We always need to do something different. Um, because I've learned um, in my life that every time I point the finger, and you've heard this over and over and over, three are pointing back at me, three are pointing back at you. So, oftentimes, fam, it's not what they're doing to you, it's what we're not doing.
Mm,
It's what you're not doing,
mm,
right? It's what you're not doing. And so there's some things we have to do. And when I think of things we have to do, the transformation as we talk about this worldly economy, we pivot to a spiritual economy. There's things that we have to do. It doesn't just happen because we pray about it. I told you at TLC we do the work. It doesn't happen. And I think about um, the poem Autobiography in Five Chapters. And I know some of you know that poem, but I'm gonna read it again. Because I just heard someone say, to do the same thing over is insanity. It's just insanity to do the same thing over. But autobiography in five chapters goes like this. Chapter one, I walk down the street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I fall in. I'm lost. I'm helpless. It isn't my fault. It takes forever to find a way out. Chapter two says, I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. I pretend I don't see it this time. I fall in again. I can't believe I'm in the same place, but it isn't my fault. It takes a long time to get out. Still, Chapter 3 says, I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. This time I see it's there. I fall in, but it's a habit. But my eyes are open. I know where I am. It's my fault. I get out immediately. Chapter 4 says, I walk down the same street. There's a deep hole in the sidewalk. This time I walk around it. Yeah.
mm.
But chapter 5 says, I walk down a different street.
Come on now.
See, fam, we need to walk down a different street.
Mm,
We need to walk down a different street. When we talk about divesting, when we talk about this idea of decolonizing, when we talk about this idea of transformation of the mind and not conforming, we need to walk down a different street and do something different. And when I think about change and transformation, I love change and transformation. My life is about transformation. And people who go to TLC, they know their lives called transforming love community. It's about transformation. And I think about change and transformation. I think about three or four friends that really come to mind. You know why? And I bring this up because I'm just one family. I'm not impressed by titles. I'm not impressed by how much money someone makes. I'm not impressed by wealth. I'm not impressed by all those things that the world can be impressed by. I'm not. I'm impressed by transformation. I'm impressed by someone who changes their life. That's what I'm impressed by. So I think about three or four friends who have taken control of their own lives. And at this moment in this season, they decided to cease consuming alcohol. They've stopped. They stopped drinking. Hmm. And when I talk to them, they all report the same thing. And at different times, they report the same thing. They report more clarity. They report that their vision is sharper. They report that they're more intimate with their newer self that they're getting familiar with. They report an increase in sound decision making.
mm,
They report a newfound sense of liberation. All this comes from sober living. So I applaud and celebrate them. And maybe yours isn't that. But I love this idea of recovery and transformation. I love it. And I celebrate them. Now, I use that example about drinking, fam, for a reason. I use it because many of us, though we say we want peace, we want joy, we want all that, many of us are still drinking the waters of conformity.
Oh,
I said many of us are still drinking the waters of conformity,
come on now.
intoxicated by the promises of democracy,
Say it.
intoxicated by the promises of freedom,
Mm.
intoxicated by the promise of justice that someone else gives, sort of like a dangling carrot. We're intoxicated by it. And if we find someone in office that we like, we lull to sleep because we think everything's okay. No, no, no. The system is the system, and it dangles a carrot front in front of you. So we stay intoxicated sometimes also by the inability to achieve a standard that's set by those who created the system. You know, people stay numbed up because he's these standards that are created. Now I can't reach it. Now I'll stay intoxicated to numb myself from the disappointment, numb
Mm.
myself from the pain. We stay intoxicated. But I want to tell you, fam, that that's a standard that we can never achieve because when it comes to earthly pursuits, fam, it's always a moving target. It's always something else. It's always a chase. There's no contentment. In fact, earthly pursuits and earthly economies have you living on the edge, always searching for the next thing,
Mm. Mm. Mm.
always searching for what's going to justice from someone else, always searching.
Mm. Mm.
And to
Mm.
what end?
What is-
I ask myself, fam, to what end? And the truth is that oftentimes it's from a desire to profit and thrive in the same system that's had its foot on your neck. You want to thrive in the same system that's had its foot on your neck.
Your neck. How's that gonna work?
And you see, fam, that desire was front and center as we saw some of our most cherished rappers performing at the inauguration. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes. Yes. Bring it.
Is that when there's a desire and to profit and thrive in the same system that's had a foot on your neck? That is insane.
Mm.
That is insane, fam. And so we divest and we decolonize because we are not hungry to be in proximity to power.
Mm.
The people of God find their contentment right there.
Mm. 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 Mm.
Our power is in here. It's not out there. And so I'm not chasing it. And I'm not chasing your dollars either. And so let's talk about the earthly economy for a minute, just for a second. See, the earthly economy, right, is based on lack, it's based on greed, it's based on attachment. That's the consciousness. It's a lack consciousness that really says that there's not enough, right? Even though people are making billions of dollars and all that, it's based on a lack consciousness. Because what it says is, what I have that you don't have, or I have something that you don't have, therefore I have to protect it and then sell it back to you
Mm.
because that's how I make my profit. Whether it's goods, services, knowledge, whatever that is, I got to protect it and then sell it back to you. And that's how I make my profit. And sometimes that even includes our blessings and our gifts, fam. We have to share those things.
Yeah, we do.
I'm understanding more and more, fam, that my gift is not just for me. When I get tired, I do a lot. I give a lot. I give a lot of energy. I get tired, and sometimes I need to find more ways for self care. And I also understand that my gift is not just for me,
Yeah.
right? And I'm not saying don't monetize your gifts, fam. I'm not saying that. But while you monetize your gift, you cannot withhold it from those in need.
Yeah.
Don't withhold it from those in need because sometimes you have to give that gift away.
Mm.
You have to give that gift away. And so, I want to make clear that many of us have found some success in the earthly economy. We're not saying that don't go out and make money. We know that people pay for their rent, pay for mortgage, pay all that. But we have to make sure, fam, we have to make sure that the success we find in the earthly economy doesn't cause us to abandon God's directive to proclaim good news to the poor, to proclaim freedom for the prisoners, to proclaim sight for the blind, to
Mm.
set the oppressed free. We can't forget that.
Yeah.
We can't forget that, man. So it's a switch, it's a pivot, it's a shift. You know, another thing the earthly economy has us doing, fam? The earthly economy has us spending an insane amount of money on an education that teaches us skills that corporations often use in the pursuit of unconscious profit.
Mm.
Insane amount of money on education. You know, education is free in a lot of places around the world,
Yes, it
in the
is.
global communities, yet we spend an insane amount of money and then have insane student loans
Mm.
because this economy is meant to put you in debt.
Exactly.
Even when you think of the word mortgage, the first part of that word is mort, which means death, synonymous with mortuary. It's to keep you in debt.
Come on,
And
Spence.
oftentimes we pay insane amount of money to go to school to use those skills to uphold the same system. Now I know we have to find purpose in our work. We have to do that. But we have to stay conscious at the same time while we're doing it.
Mm.
Because we can be easily deceived if we're not. We can be easily deceived when we find some degree of profit in the system. But remember, it's not really a system that creates opportunity for everyone to thrive. It is not. So whatever success we find in that system, we also have to use it, right, to build up others. You have to use it for the community.
Mm.
Yeah, here's another thing we can't be deceived by, fam. We can't be deceived by exceptions to the rule. We think in exceptions to the rule. And sometimes we think, stay with me here. Sometimes we think an exception is an indication that the rule is changing.
Mm.
And I want to say this, an exception to the rule does not invalidate or negate the rule. In fact, the exception actually demonstrates the existence of the rule.
What's an example?
Let me give you an example, fam. It means that there might be a specific circumstance where that rule didn't apply. But let me give you an example. I heard last year a black politician. I won't say political party. I heard a black politician say that racism doesn't exist. He said it doesn't exist because while everybody's talking about racism, he said I came from poverty and I made it. You see, an exception doesn't negate the rule.
Mm.
He wanted to put himself out as an exception. Well, I came from poverty and I made it. So racism doesn't exist. So I want to talk about that for a minute because possibly he had a circumstance where he made it and he wants to change the rule or think the rule doesn't exist. But I want to say to you, fam, now as I think about people and I think about the rappers and I think about all that, if you want to tap dance your way into proximity with power, that's your business. But it doesn't mean that racism doesn't exist.
Mm.
It doesn't mean that. If your desire If your strong desire is to be in proximity to power and you see that you made it, don't say the rule doesn't exist. It doesn't, you just tap dance your way to be closer to power.
Mm.
And so we have to be careful, family.
Mm.
We have to be careful and say, well, so and so made it, it doesn't exist. No, the rule said, and we know the rule still exists, fam.
The system is
The system is still there. And so we have to open our eyes and we have to wake up, fam. Even when in a worldly economy, right? In an earthly economy, life becomes transactional. It's all about transactions. In fact, earthly economies thrive off transaction. We're about to be in a trade war right now.
Mhm.
In a trade war right now, right? In transactions and trade wars and all this stuff. But it thrives off of those type of transactions. In fact, it's the story of our origins. I had an opportunity to present the other day um, at an event that was for human and labor and sex trafficking. I was there presenting and then thinking about this whole idea of labor trafficking. I thought about the origins of the system. You know, the slave trade was the biggest labor trafficking you can think of. Labor trafficking and human labor trafficking, right? And when you think about the carceral system and the way the system is set up, where black bodies are still used as labor. See, this is the system, fam. But see, it becomes transactional, and people become pawns. People become pawns in that thing, and they become resources, pawns that you can use for profit. And the same when you talk about sex trafficking, the objectification that's necessary to do that, the inhumane way, the way you see people as objects and not humans, controlling women's body, all those things happen in a economy, in a worldly economy, because we only think about making profit, and whoever gets used, and whoever gets abused, and people become bargaining chips. People become things to trade. That is the story of our origins in this country. So we have to think about this system, even in 2025, is still there. So that system is still there. So again, we got to pivot from earthly economy to a spiritual way of being. Even Christianity has been hijacked by extremism and consumerism, fam. Salvation is being trafficked to many of our churches. Just like we traffic labor trafficking, we traffic salvation in a lot of our churches, lured in by the promise of self-salvation. If you're loyalty to a church, or if you give so much money, it's a bargaining chip for your salvation. Fear is being sold. Fear is being sold. So our churches and Christianity has not been immune to this. But I want you to know, fam, that in the spiritual economy, God doesn't bargain. God freely gives. That people aren't bargaining chips. God freely gives. So before we shift, I just want to acknowledge, that yeah, it can be tempting, right? It can be tempting. Now I think about when Jesus was when he was led into the wilderness, right? When you talk about temptation, he was led into the wilderness. He was tested in the wilderness, and as the book says, from the devil. It could have been from his own consciousness. We talk about ourselves from his own consciousness, but let's just say, as the story goes, from the devil. And it says that Jesus was led by the Spirit into the wilderness. It said Matthew 4:11. He was led by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted by the devil, and after fasting 40 days and 40 nights, he was hungry. Then the tempter came to him and said, "If you are the Son of God, tell these stones to become bread." And he answered, "It's written, man shall not live by bread alone, but on every word that comes from the mouth of God." Then the devil took him to the holy city, took him on a stand, took him to the highest point in the temple. He said, "If you're the Son of God, throw yourself down, for it's written that he will command his angels concerning you. And if you throw yourself down, they will lift you up in their hands, so that you will not strike even your foot against a stone." And Jesus answered, "It's written, do not put your Lord God to the test." And then one more time, the devil took him to a very high mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of the world and all of their splendor, all of their wealth, all of their money, all of their economies. And he said, "All this I will give you," he said, "if you will bow down and worship me." Jesus said to him, "Away from me, Satan, for it is written, worship the Lord your God and serve him only." And the word tells us that then the devil departed and the angels came and attended to him. You see, that's when Jesus was even tempted. So it's tempting, right? But here's the thing. The most significant part of that story to me, right? It wasn't just that Jesus resisted all manners of temptation. Certainly that is the lesson. He did resist all manners of temptation, which we have to as well. But here's what really stuck out to me: the fact that the temptation came after Jesus fasted 40 days and 40 nights, and he was hungry. You
Mm,
see, he was hungry. He tempted him with bread. And so I'm asking you, fam, what are you hungry for?
mm,
Because sometimes when you're hungry, when you're so hungry, you can be at your most vulnerable point.
yes.
You be there and someone tempts you with this. If
Right.
you're broke and someone tempts you with money, if you don't have love and someone tempts you with love, if you don't have something and someone tempts you with you might have it. I'm asking you, what are you hungry for? Because that's where your vulnerability lies.
Mm,
And if you've never had it, right? If you never had love, you might accept it from anybody or anywhere. If you never had security, if you never had acceptance, you can be tempted by earthly rewards. So I ask you, what are you hungry for?
mm,
What are you hungry for? And when we move to that place, when we move to that place, see, this is why I'm excited about my own becoming,
mm,
about my own journey.
yes.
Because when you move to that place, you have an appetite for righteousness.
Mm,
Your hunger is for God.
mm,
And you can say to yourself, just like it says in Psalm 41, as the deer pants for streams of water, so I long for you, God. I long for righteousness. I only pant after righteousness,
mm,
just like the deer pants after a stream of water, the
mm,
flowing stream of water. So that's where we need to get.
yes.
Because when we get there, family, then we're ready to move from a culture of competition to a culture of compassion,
Mm,
to a
say that.
culture from a culture of acquisitions to a culture of altruism. That's
Yes.
unselfish giving. From a culture of consumption to a culture of preservation. That's where we want to move. That is the spiritual economy, fam. That's where we want to move to.
Mm,
So, in other words, we move from a culture of getting to a culture of giving.
mm, mm,
From a culture of getting to a culture of giving. I love John 3:16. We quote it all the time.
yes, we do.
God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. But let's shorten that sentence up for a minute. God so loved the world that he gave.
Mm, mm,
He gave. God's most loving act was to give. And so we're moving to a culture of giving. The word tells us, give and it will be given to
unto
you.
you. That's right.
Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over, will be poured into your lap. For with the measure you use, it will be measured to you. With the measure you use, it will be measured to you. I want to read something to you. It comes from Spiritual Economics, Eric Butterworth's book. And he tells a story about a preacher. A preacher went to a neighborhood parish. He went to preach by invitation. And he took his young son with him. As they entered the church, he saw a contribution box and he followed his good instincts. He deposited a $50. After his sermon was completed and the congregation had departed, the minister host said, "Hey, we're not very prosperous here, and then all we can pay is what's in the contribution box." So he opened the box and presented the visitor with a $50, all that had been put in. The visitor thanked him and went away. If not rejoicing, he at least resigned. Then they walked in silence for a distance. Then the wise young man, his little son, said, "Gee, Dad, if you had put more in, you would have gotten more out." Such is the great law of giving. If you put more in, you get more out. If you give more to God, God reveals himself more to you. If you give more, you get more. To get it, you have to give it,
Mm,
fam.
mm, mm, mm.
And so that is the culture that we need to get to, the culture, and we need a mass conversion of people
Yes, we do.
who are embracing the spiritual economy, who are coming out of this idea of getting, coming out of this idea of acquiring material things, all these things that make us look successful, that have been presented to us, that have been dangled with a kid. Come out of that. We need to come out of that.
Mm,
And I
mm,
know,
mm.
family, I know, I know that when I talk about coming out of that and we think about it, we live where we live at. And there's hardly a place we can go or a place we can buy or, that we're not touched by something. We're not touched by this idea of capitalism, this idea of the economy. And we just have to switch and not focus on it, not dwell in that place. fam. And so I want to, there's a term, and there's also a company, but a term called conscious capitalism. Conscious capitalism, as opposed to unconscious capitalism,
Mm.
right? Unconscious capitalism is something else. It's something where corporations have a social responsibility to their people, a responsibility to the environment. Yes, they make money. Yes, they make profits, but they have a conscious capitalism that keeps people in mind, that doesn't use people as pawns, you know, that has conscious leadership, something that embraces the humanity in people,
Mhm.
all those things. And so that's where we need to move to conscious capitalism. We're not just going to do away with capitalism. It's not going to be done away tomorrow, but we have to bring more conscious and more humanity to it. And we're the ones to do that, man.
Mhm.
And sometimes you have to do that by tapping out and using your dollars as a tool. Ask yourself where you're going to spend your dollars, where you're going to do that. Because see, dollars in the earthly economy, money is the new currency. Eric and I were talking just yesterday. My money is just an idea.
Mhm.
It's just an idea, idea. We kill over it, we fight over it, we scramble for it, we chase it. But see, in the meantime, in the spiritual economy, man, the new currency is relationships.
Yes, it is.
Relationships is new currency. Community is the new currency. Healing is the new currency. Kindness is the new currency.
Come on.
Compassion is the new currency. Creativity is the new currency. Our unity is our currency.
Mhm.
And you know what our compensation? Joy and liberation will be our compensation.
Mm, 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 mm.
Joy and liberation is our compensation. And I'm talking about liberation for all, man,
Not just some.
not just some. I know there's spaces where we talk about Black liberation. I know there's spaces where we talk about LGBTQIA plus liberation. I know there's some places where we talk about immigrants liberation, Black and brown people, indigenous, a Latino brothers, all that. Well, I know there's spaces where people are doing their work for liberation, but it won't work if we're not doing it in the context of universal liberation.
Yeah.
Because certainly, if all oppression is connected,
And
then we have to answer with connection with each other.
mm,
Because we cannot go into our silos. We cannot find, we will never find liberation in our silos. You might think you do, but not universal liberation. Eric and I are watching a show right now, and it's an old, not an older show. It's been out for a few years, I think, called Silo. And people are, live underground, and they've been convinced that their silo keeps them safe. They've been convinced that the outside world is dangerous. In fact, they even shown a picture through the windows that a land that is barren looks like it's been destroyed. Barren, nothing out there, nothing grows. That's what they're shown. So people think they're being kept safe in the silo.
mm,
But there are people who are resisting, right? There are people who are resisting. And we haven't finished the series yet, but there are those who are finding out that for some reason someone kept them in the silo for their own purposes. That what's really on the outside is green foliage. What's
mm,
really on the outside is green grass and blue skies and birds flying.
mm,
What's really out there is life. What's really out there is God. What's really out there is happiness. What's really out there is joy. What's really out there is freedom. But they're kept in a silo. We cannot stay in our silos, man. And we cannot believe those who want to create illusions for us, illusions of separation. So, fam, we have to pivot from one to the other. And that's the spiritual currency. That's our currency. And this is why we're together today. This is why people are building community and spaces
yeah.
to hold each other tightly, because they understand that community is our currency right now.
Yes.
They understand that. Communal care is our currency.
Yes.
And then we have to act. Then we have to act. Then we have to act, fam. We act from that space.
Mm, mm,
We can, I'll tell you what we can't do. We have to stop, fam, waiting for the next shock to come on the news
yes.
because they will be there.
They will be there.
We can't wait for the not shocking thing to come out of 47's mouth. We can't wait. We have to create. Create instead of wait. See, create. When you wait, it'll be a shocking thing today. Later on today, it'll be a shocking thing right now. It'll be another shocking thing tomorrow. We can't. No, no, no. That's taking us out of our space. So we can't wait. And we can't keep affirming those things and doing them because it's not keeping us well, fam. We have to envision a future together,
Mhm,
and we have to create together.
mhm.
We have to create together. So we're moving from the worldly economy, an earthly economy, to a spiritual economy, and we are sustained by those things of the spirit
Yeah.
because that's where we dwell.
Yeah.
I want to end, fam, by reading a quote from Octavia Butler's Parable of the Sower. All that you touch, you change. All that change. The only lasting truth is change. God is change. God is change. And family, I want you to know today, and I want you to affirm to yourself that despite all appearances, that change is coming. Despite all appearances, change is happening right now. Change is happening right now. Change is happening in you. Change is happening in your family. Change is happening in your siblings, in your children. Change is happening right now. And change is continuing to come. Amen.
Amen.
I say,
Ashe.
and so it is. So it is, fam. I love you. I love you. I bless you. It's so good to be here with you. And I just feel that we're holding each other right now, wherever we are. Wherever we are. Wherever we are. And if this is our time of giving, fam, we talked about the spiritual economy of giving, one about giving. This is our time to give. And if you've gotten anything from this message, if you've gotten anything from everyone who gives messages at TLC, certainly Rev, and anything that has changed your life or continues to transform your life, give to this ministry so we can keep doing what we do. And I'm going to affirm right now that divine love in and through us blesses and multiplies all that we have, all that we give, and all that we receive. Give, and it will be given to you, fam. There's many ways to give. You see it on the screen. There's CashApp. You can go to the website. There's Givelify. All those ways to give. Give, and it will be given to you. And giving is not just your money, right? Give it your time. Call TLC. Ask somebody, what can you do? How can you help? There's plenty of ways to do that, particularly if you're in Detroit, where many of our members are right now. Just give, man. Give, and it will be given to you. Give from the reservoir of God's endless supply in you because you've been endowed with that. Amen. Amen. Let's end with our prayer of protection, fam. I love you, and I want to affirm to everyone who's in earshot of this message, everyone who will listen later, that the light of God surrounds you, the love of God enfolds you, the power of God protects you, and the presence of God watches over you. That wherever you are, God is. Wherever you are today, wherever you are tomorrow, God is. And all is well. Go your way rejoicing, fam. Go your way rejoicing and be the change that you want to see. Amen.
Mm.
Peace and love.